Well, I've lived in the town of Powassan for the last 25 years. Before that, I lived just outside of Powassan in Nipissing Village. So I had 4 brothers, and we had a very normal childhood, I think. We lived out in the middle of nowhere and entertained ourselves with our cousins who lived across the road, so, you know, very active childhood. You know. Well, my mom was born in Commanda, and my dad was born in Fort Loring. So basically from around here. We didn't farm. My father eventually had a mill and made cedar products and then cedar furniture. And at one point we had a market garden on the same area, but it was a farm, but we didn't farm animals. Dad wasn't a cow milker, so. We raised chickens at one time, and like hundreds of them. Oh yes, yeah, big market garden and big chicken or poultry garden or farm. I used to nail celery crates. We made them for the Bradford gardens, like, you know, where they do the big farms down there with the celery. We sold celery crates to them, so we had to nail them, the end pieces, and then they'd send us slats with them and make up bundles like that. And we sent, Dad made the big, not flats, but what they used to load things on. Yeah. The term has gone out of my head. Yeah, that work went on for quite a while. We had that most of my childhood. We had the little mill going there. So. Grass fire got away on the people who lived just around the hill from us, and it wiped the mill out. Almost took my parents home, but they took the farm, the mill, and they just couldn't afford. The insurance said you had to have, you know, bathrooms separated and all this stuff, which just wasn't practical, so they gave it up. That would be in the 80s sometime, I believe. I'm not positive. I know that before my mother and dad came out here to live in Powassan, and they lived here quite a while, so. But I was living in Golden Valley at that time, so I'm not really sure of the year. It's not even a village anymore. It's just a little collection of houses. It used to be an active hub. Well, at one point it was going to be North Bay. They changed the railroad and bypassed Nipissing, but it was supposed to be the big depot for the trains and everything. So it was big. It had hotels and jails and everything else there at one point. Now it's just, they have the church and the school, and that's about it. Like, there's no stores or anything else. At one point there was. But. So, and Powassan has sort of grown in comparison. Like when we when we first here, it's not too much different now. Though there's quite a few houses, like Solvay's subdivision up in the North Hill there. It's got, you know, we had 3 houses when we started. Now it's, you know, it's got 10. So. That's a change, but the rest of it hasn't changed all that much, other than getting water in the sewers. That was a big thing, and that happened before I came out here. So in Nipissing, there wasn't very much any excitement we had. We came out to Powassan, like we came out to the theater. My father drove school bus, so we would on Saturdays, because he owned the school bus, he could take it on weekends, and we would pick up people and bring them out to the movies almost every week for, you know, during the summer months anyway. I don't remember in the winter, but took figure skating out here at Powassan, and our church was in Nipissing, so we did all the church stuff there. Oh, we saw Charlie Chaplin, I remember, because he broke his back, and I cried and cried. Bambi, we saw lots of cartoons. Like, they always had cartoons in between the double features, so we watched cartoons. They also had talent shows. And my older brother won one of the talent shows, but I was too young for them. I don't remember what he did. I think he sang, but I'm not sure. Could have read a poem or something too, but they did all kinds of things, yeah. I attended high school here in Powassan. I think I read every book in all 4 rooms at the library, or at the school. So when I came out to high school, I read all the books they had here too. Some of them, I remember one book that I really liked, and it had been signed out the last time when I was born. and it was still there in the library, and I got to read it. Oh, it was something about Karen, somebody's daughter. It was all about Norwegians, and it was an excellent book. Yeah, I started acting in the high school. Gwen Froud was the music and drama teacher, and they put on big operettas every year, and they usually was just the 11 and 12s that went into it. But the year my brother graduated, I was in grade 9, and they needed an extra in the chorus, so I got to sing. And then I did my own, like I had other chances after that as I got to the right age. But about the year that I was in grade 12, I think she quit doing it. So, well, we did like Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore, and the one I was in was Stephen Foster's Garden, and so it was bigger ones that we adapted and did the music for. So. And then I'm now a part of the Powassan Players. So we buy the rights to put on a play when we get it. Shirley does all the reading. She reads hundreds of plays every year to try and find some. It's getting harder and harder because we're getting older and older, so that's kind of hard to have these romantic little funny things when it's very obvious that we're not young anymore. So, but we have a lot of fun with that, and it's certainly well received in the area. I mean, they can't wait for the next one all the time. So. We had a lot of hockey games there. Used to be they'd be the young men, I guess. Like the towns each had like Restoule had a team, and Nipissing had a team, Powassan and Trout Creek. There was great rivalries going on. Even Port Loring would come out and play. Like they had a really good series that they would have a lot of attendance. People come to it, to see it. And they were really good. And same with baseball. They did a lot of playing baseball. And the teams from all the other towns would come out and play. We had dances. Dancing was the big thing. We'd go to big community dances. Like Trout Creek had a huge hall. It was the sort of the central place. Powassan didn't have a place where we could have a big dance. We could have town dance, like teenage dances, but this was for adults and everyone. And Arnstein had a big hall. Port Loring had a big hall. Commanda had a big hall. It's still there, but we used it to dance, and everybody came to dances. I mean, that was the only thing you could do, so that was our main entertainment. To go to North Bay to a movie, because the little theatre here had closed, it just was too expensive for most people. We didn't all drive, didn't all have cars. So. Oh, at least every Saturday, sometimes Friday and Saturday. In hunting season there would be maybe more, because the hunters, used to be thousands of hunters come up into this area, and there was always lots of extra dances in that time of year. And local bands usually played. Urban Prescott, I just noticed him in the Nugget not too long ago. They were doing a memorial something to him, but he was one of our favorite bands to come and play. Laverne Hummel from Trout Creek was part of it. So we sort of knew, some of the people in the bands and that. Where the arena is now, the front part of it was the hall, I believe. Yeah, it was a big hall. People came from Burke's Falls and all over the place. It wasn't just local. And in those days, everybody danced. It wasn't like now. I started dancing when I was a toddler almost, because my parents were very into it out in Nipissing, especially square dancing, which is sort of a lost art form now, but at that time everybody square danced. And I remember going at 12 years old and being part of the adult group, because they needed somebody. The hall would be filled with sets dancing, where now if you were lucky you could maybe get one set if you could find 8 people that knew how to do it. But then everybody square danced. I was going to this during the time when the jive and the twist were just starting, so that was, we danced the new dances too. By then we had television and we could see what they were doing on bandstand and things like that, and we tried them. So. Well, Kennedy was assassinated in the early 60s there, so I remember that. it took a long time for anything sort of to get to us. Like, we didn't have this sort of instant news. Like, we would find out about things that happened over in Europe or over in Asia maybe, you know, 2 or 3 months later. You know, so it didn't have the same impact. You know, you'd hear there was a big volcano or something. Well, you know, it just didn't mean anything. Now we know that, you know, it's going to affect when we fly or something. So there's a more immediateness to everything now than there was then. I mean, then you waited on letters and telephones, and the telephones were party lines, and it was just a different era altogether. I taught school, and I taught in Golden Valley, Arnstein, Port Loring, Restoule, South Hemsworth, and Maple Ridge. Went for 2 years, the 2-year program. It was I think it was the last year they had the 2. You could go right from grade 12, because we didn't have 13 here, and you took 2 sessions to get your degree or your certificate. Most people in that time would go teach us in the summer and then teach and then go back to school, the completer courses we call them. So I had the ones who had grade 13, of course, only had to go for 1 year. So I got to go for 2 years. And it was nice because I could, close enough I could still come home on the weekends. So I was only just turned 8. No, I was still 17 when I started, so I was young to be away from home for the first time. I'm an LLWL, which is a licensed lay worship leader, so I lead services all over North Bay Presbytery. And I'm chair of council on Powassan Church, a member of the Chippewa choir from Chisholm and Powassan. I do volunteering in the name of the church, so. Yeah, I go to East Home and to Lady Isabel and have hymn sings with the people. Like, we sing for an hour old hymns. Seems to go over well. I was co-padre with Reverend Teresa, but now she's not doing it, so I am the padre for the local region. Well, usually it's the tributes that they have when a person dies. We have a little service that we do, and I do those. And then on November the 11th, we have the big ceremony, and I take part in that. I have 2 of my sons live here in Powassan too, and they're very active. Both families are very active in the minor hockey. And my one son is a volunteer member of the fire department. They both coach and help out that way as well. And I find Powassan is a good little place. I mean, you can be as private as you want, like you don't have to know your neighbors, and you can also be as social as you want, depending on what group you get into. Like the church group is where I sort of started all my activities from, because that's important to me. So, and that sort of fills most of my social needs is from the people there. But then doing with the Legion, it's another group of people that you get to meet, and when you do volunteering, that's another group. Like, there's interests for everybody that has a need. You know, you can find it here. I think it's a very, very good little town that way. And it's nice and close to North Bay and other places that if you want to go, you can now.